The blizzard arrived without warning, as they always did in the Canadian Rockies during late January. Marcus Reed stood at his cabin window, watching the white curtain descend over the mountain landscape, erasing the world one tree at a time. His camera sat forgotten on the table behind him, the memory card still full of photos he hadn't bothered to edit in weeks. What was the point? Nobody was waiting for them. Nobody was waiting for him. He turned away from the window and fed another log into the cast-iron stove. The cabin creaked and settled around him like an old friend, its wooden bones adjusting to the cold. This place had been his sanctuary for 3 years now, ever since the divorce papers were signed, and he'd realized he had nothing tying him to the city anymore. No wife, no kids, no career worth mentioning. Just a modest inheritance from his grandfather and a cabin in the middle of nowhere. The wind howled like a living thing, and Marcus settled into his worn leather chair with a book he'd read twice before. The electricity had gone out an hour ago, not unusual during storms like this, but he had oil lamps and plenty of wood. He'd learned to be self-sufficient up here. It was either that or go crazy from the isolation. He was 3 chapters in when he heard it dot at first. He thought it was just the wind playing tricks, the way it sometimes sounded like voices crying in the distance. But then it came again, clearer this time. Not a voice exactly, but a sound that didn't belong to the storm. A musical note, almost, high and crystalline and definitely not natural. Marcus set down his book and moved to the door, pressing his ear against the wood. Nothing but wind. He was about to dismiss it when he heard it a third time, and this time there was no mistaking it. Something or someone was out there. He grabbed his heavy parka and pulled it on, wrapping a scarf around his face. The moment he opened the door, the wind tried to rip it from his hands. Snow blasted into the cabin, stinging any exposed skin. The temperature had to be well below 0, and with the wind chill, it was deadly. Marcus pulled his flashlight from his pocket and stepped out onto the porch. The beam cut through the swirling snow, illuminating nothing but white chaos. He was about to go back inside when he saw something that made his heart stop. A faint blue glow, pulsing weakly about 30 yards from his cabin, half buried in a snowdrift. His photographer's instinct screamed at him that this wasn't natural, even as his survival instinct told him to get back inside before he froze. But there was something about that light, something that called to a part of him he thought was long dead. The part that still believed in wonder. Marcus pushed forward through the knee-deep snow, his flashlight beam dancing across the white expanse. As he got closer, the blue glow intensified, and he could make out shapes. 2 of them huddled together, their bodies creating a shallow depression in the snow. When he finally reached them, his breath caught in his throat. They were humanoid, but definitely not human. Their skin had an ethereal quality, one shimmering with silver iridescence, the other glowing with a soft pale blue luminescence, even in her unconscious state. They wore what looked like form-fitting suits made of some material that seemed to shift between solid and liquid, torn in several places and covered in frost. Long hair, one silver white and one the color of moonlight, was frozen into crystalline strands around their faces. The most striking thing was their beauty. Even half frozen and clearly dying, they were the most beautiful beings Marcus had ever seen. Their features were delicate and angular, with high cheekbones and full lips that had turned an alarming shade of blue. Their eyes were closed, but he could see the faint tracery of veins beneath their skin, glowing with that same ethereal light. Marcus didn't think. He couldn't afford to. They were dying right in front of him. He dropped to his knees and checked for signs of life. The silver-skinned one had a pulse, faint but there, beating in a rhythm slightly faster than human. The blue-tinted one was even weaker, her body temperature so low his fingers ached just touching her skin. They were wrapped around each other, trying to share what little warmth they had left. "I've got you," Marcus said, knowing they probably couldn't hear him. Just hold on. He was a big man, 6'2", and still strong despite 3 years of isolation, but lifting both of them was a challenge. They were lighter than human women, their size should be, as if their bones were hollow. But the awkwardness of carrying 2 bodies at once made the journey back to the cabin feel like miles instead of yards. The wind fought him every step, trying to push him down, trying to make him drop his burden and save himself. His muscles screamed, his lungs burned from breathing the frozen air, but he kept moving, 1 foot in front of the other. Almost there. Just a little further. When he finally kicked open the cabin door and stumbled inside, he nearly collapsed from the effort. But he forced himself to keep moving, carrying them to the area in front of the stove where the heat was strongest. He laid them down as gently as he could on the thick rug and immediately began stripping off their frozen outer garments. The suits they wore underneath seemed to be all one piece, and he couldn't find any obvious way to remove them without scissors. He decided to leave them for now and focus on warming them up. He grabbed every blanket he owned and piled them on top of the 2 aliens, then stoked the fire until it was roaring. The silver-skinned one stirred first. Her eyes fluttered open, and Marcus found himself staring into irises that were a deep violet color, with pupils that weren't quite round. They focused on him with difficulty, confusion and fear warring in their depths. It's okay, Marcus said softly, holding up his hands in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. You're safe. I'm not going to hurt you. She tried to speak, her lips moving, but only a faint whistling sound came out. She tried again, and this time Marcus heard something that might have been words, but in a language that sounded like wind chimes and running water. I don't understand, he said, but you're safe now. Just rest. Her hand emerged from under the blankets, reaching for him. Her fingers were long and elegant, with an extra joint, and when she touched his hand, her skin was still frighteningly cold. But she held on with surprising strength, her violet eyes locked on his face with an intensity that made something in his chest tighten. The blue-tinted one woke next, her eyes opening suddenly with a gasp. Her irises were a lighter shade of violet, almost lavender, and they were filled with panic. She tried to sit up, but the silver one spoke to her in that musical language, and she calmed slightly, though her eyes kept darting around the cabin like a trapped animal. Marcus backed away, giving them space. It's okay, he repeated. You're in my cabin. There's a storm outside. You would have died if I hadn't brought you in. They spoke to each other in rapid bursts of their language, and Marcus watched as understanding seemed to dawn in their eyes. The silver one looked at him and placed her hand over her chest. Seraphin, she said, her voice heavily accented but understandable. Then she pointed to the other one. Lunette, sister. Marcus felt relief wash over him. They could speak English, or at least understand it. I'm Marcus, he said, touching his own chest. You're safe here. I promise. Seraphine nodded slowly. Thank ... you. The words seemed to take effort, as if she was pulling them from deep in her memory. Cold, so cold. I know. But you're warming up now. Can you tell me what happened? How did you end up out there in the storm? But before Seraphine could answer, Lunette made a sound of distress and clutched at her sister's arm. She spoke urgently in their language, and Seraphine's expression darkened. She looked at Marcus with something like fear in her eyes. We escape, Seraphine said finally. Bad men chase. We crash. Ship crash. We run. Then storm. Then ... nothing. Until you. Marcus felt his world tilt slightly. Ship, she said. Ship? These weren't just aliens. They were aliens with a spacecraft, which meant they came from somewhere else. Somewhere far beyond Earth. Are the bad men still chasing you? He asked, glancing toward the door, Seraphine and Lynette exchanged looks. Finally, Seraphine nodded. Maybe, we not know. Storm hide us, but they will look when storm end. Marcus took a deep breath, trying to process everything. He had 2 alien women in his cabin, running from some kind of pursuers, and when the storm ended, those pursuers might come looking. The logical part of his brain told him this was insane, that he should be afraid, that he should do something. But another part of him, the part that had been dormant for 3 years, felt something else entirely. Looking at Seraphine and Lynette, seeing the fear and vulnerability in their eyes, he felt something he hadn't felt since before his marriage fell apart. He felt needed. Then we'll figure it out together, Marcus said. For now, you need to recover. Are you hungry? At the word hungry, both sisters' eyes widened, and Marcus had his answer. He moved to his small kitchen area and started pulling out supplies. Soup would be best, something warm and easy to digest. As he worked, he was aware of their eyes following his every movement, tracking him with an intensity that was both flattering and slightly unnerving. As the soup began to heat, filling the cabin with a rich aroma of vegetables and herbs, Marcus glanced back at his unexpected guests. Lynette had her head resting on Seraphine's shoulder, but both of them were watching him with those strange, beautiful violet eyes. And for the first time in 3 years, Marcus Reed's cabin didn't feel quite so empty. The storm continued through the night, but inside the cabin, a different kind of transformation was taking place. Marcus watched as color slowly returned to Seraphine and Lynette's skin, the deathly blue fading into their natural luminescent tones. They ate the soup slowly at first, then with increasing hunger, their elegant fingers learning to hold the spoons he provided Dot by the time dawn broke. Gray and muted through the snow-covered windows, they were sitting up on their own, wrapped in blankets and speaking to each other in low musical tones. Marcus had spent most of the night in his chair, watching over them, unable to sleep despite his exhaustion. Every time he started to drift off, he'd jolt awake, afraid they might have been a dream, but they were real. Impossibly, wonderfully real. Marcus, Seraphine said, her voice stronger now. She was watching him with those violet eyes, and there was something in her gaze that made his heart beat faster. You stay awake. For us, it wasn't a question. Marcus rubbed his face and managed a tired smile. Someone had to make sure you kept breathing. Lynette tilted her head, a gesture he was coming to recognize as curiosity. Her lavender eyes were brighter now, more alert. You are. Alone here? No mate? No family? The question hit harder than it should have. No, Marcus said simply. Just me. Why? Lynette asked with the bluntness of someone who didn't understand social filters. You are kind, strong, good. She stumbled over the words, but her meaning was clear. Marcus stood up, moving to the window to avoid their penetrating gazes. I had a wife once. She decided I wasn't enough. Said I was too distant, too caught up in my work. She left, and I came here to be alone. Seemed easier than trying again and failing. He heard movement behind him and turned to find both sisters standing, though they swayed slightly. Seraphine reached out and touched his arm, her hand warm now instead of frozen. On Nasara, she said slowly, we have sang. Heart that hides is heart that dies. You hide here, yes? Marcus wanted to deny it, but the words stuck in his throat. Instead, he asked, tell me about the Sara. Tell me why you're really running. The sisters exchanged glances, and something passed between them, some silent communication that spoke of shared pain. Finally, Seraphine nodded and gestured to the chairs by the stove. They all sat, and she began to speak. The Sara is ... was. Our home, beautiful world, 3 moons, purple sky. Our people, the Vesari, we live long lives. 300 of your years, sometimes more. We are peaceful people, artists, singers, dreamers. Her voice grew soft with longing, then hardened. But we are also traditional. Old ways, old rules. Lunette picked up the thread. When the Sari woman reaches maturity, 25 years, families arrange bonding. Not marriage like humans, deeper. Soul bond, forever bond. Two become one in spirit. That doesn't sound so bad, Marcus said carefully. Seraphine's laugh was bitter. Not bad when both choose. Bad when family trades daughters like property. Our father owes debt to noble house. House of Valtorian. So he promises us, both of us, to Lord Valtorian's son. Man we never meet. Man who wants us only as ornaments, as proof of his father's power. We saw him once, Lunette whispered, her glow dimming with the memory. At gathering. He looks at us like we are things, not people. His eyes are cold. He has 3 other bonded already, all sad, all empty. We hear stories. He breaks spirits, likes obedience, likes fear. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. So you ran. We steal small ship, Seraphine said. Navigation only, not good for long journey. We think maybe we reach outer colonies, find help. But ship was damaged. We not know. Systems fail. We crash here on your Earth. We send distress signal, but then we realize signal also brings hunters. So we run into cold, hoping to hide until we figure out next step. Then storm comes, Lunette finished. We think we die in white cold. Better than going back. Then you find us. You save us. Her eyes filled with moisture that wasn't quite tears, but close enough. Why you save us? You not know us. Marcus was quiet for a moment, thinking. I guess. Because I know what it's like to feel trapped. To feel like you don't have choices. And maybe because up here, alone, I forgot what it felt like to help someone. To be needed. Seraphine moved closer, her hand finding his again. You are needed, Marcus. By us. The way she said it made something warm bloom in his chest, something he'd thought was frozen beyond recovery. He looked at their faces, really looked at them. Seraphine, with her silver iridescence and regal bearing, every movement graceful and deliberate. Lunette with her soft blue glow and expressive features, emotions playing across her face like water reflecting light. They were both beautiful in ways that transcended species. And he felt something stirring in him that he'd sworn he was done with. Attraction, connection, the dangerous beginning of something more. Your people, Marcus said, changing the subject before his thoughts could wander further down that path. They have these soul bonds. How do they work? Lunette brightened, apparently happy to discuss something less painful. Is like finding other half of self. The Sari have ability to feel emotions of others when we touch, small bit. But with soul bond, it becomes complete. You feel everything they feel. You know their heart like your own. Is beautiful. Is forever. Can it be broken? Marcus asked. Only by death, Seraphine said quietly. Once made, bond is permanent. Why choosing is so important. Why we run rather than bond with someone who would hurt us. Marcus stood up and moved to his small kitchen, needing to do something with his hands. I should make breakfast. Real food this time. You need to keep your strength up. As he worked, cracking eggs and slicing bread, he was aware of the sisters whispering to each other in their language. He caught their glances, the way they looked at him, and then at each other, nodding as if confirming something. Lunette approached first, moving with a grace that was slowly returning as her strength recovered. Marcus, can I ask question? Of course. What you feel. When you touch us, what you feel. Her lavender eyes were intense, searching. Marcus paused, the spatula in his hand forgotten. I feel ... warmth. Not just physical warmth, but something else, like sunlight breaking through clouds. Like hope, maybe. Is that strange? Lunette's breath caught, and she turned to Seraphine with wide eyes, speaking rapidly in the Sari. Seraphine stood up quickly, moving to join them in the kitchen area. Marcus, Seraphine said carefully, when we touch you, we feel something too. Something we not feel before. Is like finding home after being lost. Like finding peace in storm. What does that mean? Marcus asked, though part of him was afraid of the answer. It means, Lunette said softly, that maybe bond is not just the sorry thing. Maybe sometimes universe puts people together who's supposed to be together, even from different worlds. Marcus looked between them, his heart pounding. That's crazy. I'm human. You're alien. We barely know each other. We know enough, Seraphine said. She reached out and placed her palm flat against his chest, over his heart. We know you are good. We know you are kind. We know you give without asking for return. We know you are lonely, like us. We know you understand running from pain, like us. Lunette placed her hand on his other side, mirroring her sister. And we know what we feel when we touch you. Is real, is true, is beginning of something. Marcus should have stepped back, should have laughed it off, made some joke about alien biology and human psychology. But he couldn't move. Under their hands, his heart was racing, and that warmth he'd felt was spreading through his entire body. This is happening too fast, he managed to say. Maybe, Seraphine agreed. But on the Sara, we believe in soul recognition. When you meet one who could be your bond, you know. Heart knows before mind. And what if you're wrong? Marcus asked. What if this is just gratitude or trauma, or some kind of alien biology thing I don't understand? Lunette smiled, and it was like watching a star come out. Then we learn together. We have time. Storm still outside. We stay, we talk, we learn. If feeling grows, then we know is real. If feeling fades, then we still have friend who saved our lives. It was reasonable. More than reasonable, given the circumstances. And yet, Marcus knew that the feeling in his chest wasn't going to fade. He'd felt dead inside for 3 years. And in one night, these two impossible women had made him feel alive again. Okay, he said finally. We'll take it slow. Learn about each other. See what this is. Both sisters smiled, and the cabin seemed to glow brighter with their happiness. They helped him finish making breakfast, and as they worked together in the small kitchen, Marcus found himself laughing for the first time in months. Lunette tried to flip a pancake and sent it sailing across the room, hitting the wall with a splat. Seraphine attempted to pour juice and somehow created a small flood on the counter. They were disasters in his human kitchen, but they were charming disasters. And Marcus found himself enchanted by every mistake, every laugh, every moment of discovery. After breakfast, Seraphine asked if she could look at his photographs. Marcus hesitated, then brought out his portfolio. Years of work documenting the mountains, the wildlife, the changing seasons. The sisters studied each image with intense focus, occasionally touching the photos and gasping as if they could feel the emotions captured in each frame. You see beauty, Seraphine said softly. Even in lonely places, you find beauty. This is gift, Marcus. My ex-wife thought it was a waste of time, Marcus said before he could stop himself. Lunette looked up at him fiercely. Then she was fool. These are not just pictures. These are pieces of soul, shared with world. Is brave. Is beautiful. Something in Marcus's chest cracked open a little more. He sat down between them, and they spent the afternoon going through his work. The sisters asking questions about Earth, about his life, while he asked about the Sara. about their customs and culture. As evening approached, and the storm finally began to ease, Marcus realized something that both thrilled and terrified him. He was falling for them. Both of them. These strange, beautiful beings who had crashed into his life like a meteor, bringing light to his self-imposed darkness. And from the way they looked at him, touching his hand whenever they could, leaning close, their glows brightening in his presence, he thought maybe, impossibly, they were falling too. The question was, what happened next? 3 days had passed since the storm ended, and Marcus's world had transformed in ways he never imagined possible. The cabin that had been his solitary refuge now hummed with life and laughter. Seraphine had taken to organizing his chaotic shelves with meticulous care, while Lunette seemed fascinated by every aspect of Earth life, asking endless questions about everything from how snow formed to why humans needed to sleep so much. But beneath the domestic comfort, tension was building. The sisters grew increasingly anxious about their crashed ship, and Marcus knew they needed to retrieve it before anyone else found it. On the 4th morning, with clear skies finally overhead, they decided to venture out. "Are you sure you can find it?" Marcus asked as they bundled up in makeshift cold weather gear. His jackets looked ridiculous on them, too broad in the shoulders, but they were warm. Seraphine closed her eyes, her hand pressed to her chest. "I feel it. Faint, but there. Our people have connection to our ships, like compass and heart." They set out into the crystalline morning, the snow crunching beneath their feet. Marcus led the way, breaking trail, while the sisters followed close behind. He noticed they stayed near him, always within touching distance, as if proximity itself was necessary. After an hour of hiking, they crested a ridge, and Lunette gasped. There! Below them, partially buried in snow and wedged between 2 massive pine trees, was their ship. It was smaller than Marcus expected, maybe the size of a large van, with smooth metallic surfaces that seemed to shift color in the sunlight, like oil on water. One side was badly damaged, a long gash showing twisted metal and exposed circuitry that sparked faintly. They descended carefully, and as they approached, both sisters placed their hands on the hull. The ship responded, its surface rippling under their touch. Panels sliding open to reveal the interior. Inside was cramped but elegant, with 2 seats that looked grown rather than built, organic curves that seemed to flow into one another. But what caught Marcus's attention was a small compartment that Seraphine opened with reverent care. She pulled out a crystal, roughly the size of a fist, that pulsed with inner light. Its surface was multifaceted, and deep within its core, colors swirled like galaxies in miniature, blues and purples and silver that seemed to breathe. "Bonding crystal," Seraphine said softly. "Every Thisari carries one. It awakens when bond begins, grows brighter as bond deepens. When bond is complete, it becomes part of ceremony." Marcus stared at the crystal, mesmerized. "It's beautiful." Lunette moved closer to him, her breath visible in the cold air. "Marcus, can I show you something? Will you trust me?" "Of course." She took his hand and placed it on the crystal, covering it with both of hers. Seraphine did the same on the other side. The moment all 3 of them touched it together, the crystal blazed with light so bright Marcus had to squint, but more than light, he felt something. A rush of emotion that wasn't entirely his own. He felt Seraphine's fierce protectiveness, her carefully controlled passion underneath her calm exterior. He felt Lunette's joy and curiosity, her desperate hope that this impossible thing growing between them was real. And beneath it all, he felt their fear, their loneliness, their desperate desire to be wanted for who they were, not what they represented. "I feel you," Marcus whispered, awed. "Both of you. How is this possible?" "Crystal recognizes potential bond," Seraphine explained, her voice thick with emotion. It shows truth. Cannot lie, cannot pretend. What you feel from us is real. And what we feel from you. Warmth, Lunette finished. Safety, acceptance, and something else. Something growing. Something that could be love, if we let it. Marcus should have been terrified. This was beyond anything he understood, beyond science or reason. But instead, he felt peace. For the first time since his divorce, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. I don't know how this works, he admitted. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. But I know I don't want you to leave. Either of you. Seraphine's glow intensified, silver light dancing across her skin. Marcus, we must tell you something. In the Sari culture, sometimes two sisters bond with same male. Is rare, but accepted. We are close, always together. We cannot imagine being separated. When we feel this pull toward you, we both feel it. Is that acceptable in your culture? Marcus's heart was pounding. I don't know if it's acceptable. I just know it feels right. And I'm tired of living by other people's rules about what love should look like. Lunette made a sound of pure happiness and threw her arms around him, nearly knocking him over in the snow. Seraphine laughed, a sound like wind chimes, enjoying the embrace. Marcus found himself in the middle of them, their warmth surrounding him, and he felt something click into place in his chest. Like a key turning in a lock. The bonding crystal, still in their joined hands, pulsed once, twice, 3 times, then settled into a steady glow. It accepts, Seraphine breathed. Crystal accepts the bond. Is beginning. Real beginning. They might have stayed like that forever, but a sound shattered the moment. A low, rumbling growl that came from somewhere above them on the ridge. Marcus turned slowly, his blood going cold. Standing against the skyline was a massive shape, easily 8 feet tall at the shoulder. A grizzly bear, woken early from hibernation by the unusual weather, and clearly not happy about the intrusion into its territory. Get behind me, Marcus said quietly, positioning himself between the bear and the sisters. Move slowly toward the ship. But the bear had already decided they were a threat. It roared, a sound that shook the air, and began charging down the slope, snow exploding around it as it built speed. Marcus had no weapons except a knife on his belt, useless against something that size. His mind raced, calculating angles and distances. They'd never make it to the ship in time. The only chance was to make himself the biggest threat, give the sisters time to get to safety. He spread his arms wide and shouted, making himself as large and loud as possible. Go, get in the ship. But neither sister moved. Instead, something incredible happened. Seraphine stepped forward, her hands raised, and her entire body blazed with silver light. Lunette joined her, blue radiance pouring from her skin. Together, they created a wall of light between Marcus and the charging bear. The bear skidded to a halt, confused and frightened by the display. It bellowed in frustration, pawing at the ground, but wouldn't cross that barrier of light. We protect you, Lunette said, her voice strained with effort. You protect us, we protect you. Is how bond works. Marcus felt something surge inside him, a response to their display, as if his own emotions were feeding their power. He stepped forward, joining them, placing his hands on their shoulders. The light intensified, and he felt their strength flowing through him, felt his own strength flowing back to them. The bear, faced with this unified display of power and determination, made its decision. With a final warning growl, it turned and lumbered back up the ridge, disappearing into the tree line. The light faded, and all 3 of them collapsed into the snow, breathing hard. Marcus looked at the sisters with new understanding. You have powers. Why didn't you mention that before? Seraphine managed a tired smile. Not powers. Is emotional energy, made physical. happens only when bond is strong, when we need to protect bonded one. Is instinct. We not even know we could do until moment happened. The bond is deepening, Lunette said, touching the crystal that had fallen into the snow. It was glowing brighter than before, the colors inside swirling faster. Is accelerating. Usually takes weeks, months. But with you, Marcus, is like wildfire. Fast and fierce and true. Marcus helped them both to their feet. They were shaking, whether from cold or emotional exhaustion. He wasn't sure. Probably both. We need to get back to the cabin. Can you walk? They nodded, but both stumbled. Without hesitation, Marcus scooped them up, one in each arm. They were light enough that he could manage, and the cabin wasn't far. As he carried them, both sisters rested their heads against his shoulders, and he felt that warmth again, that connection that seemed to grow stronger with every moment. Back at the cabin, Marcus settled them near the fire and made hot tea. They sat together on the rug, wrapped in blankets, the bonding crystal placed between them where they could all see it pulse with inner light. So what happens now? Marcus asked. With the bond, I mean. What's the next step? Serafini and Lunette exchanged glances. Finally, Seraphine spoke. Next step is choice. Conscious choice. We have felt beginning, the pull, the recognition. But true bond requires decision. Requires all of us to say yes fully, knowing what it means. What does it mean? Marcus asked quietly. It means forever, Lunette said simply. It means feeling each other's emotions always. It means being unable to be truly happy if others are sad. It means sharing everything, souls intertwined. It means if one dies, others feel that pain for rest of lives. Is beautiful. Is terrifying. Is permanent. Marcus looked at the crystal, watching the colors swirl. He thought about his life before, the emptiness, the isolation. He thought about his failed marriage, how he and his ex-wife had been two people living parallel lives that never truly connected. And he thought about these 3 days with Seraphine and Lunette, how alive he felt, how seen and understood. I've been alone for so long, he said. Alone even when I was married. I thought that was just how life was for me. But these past few days with you both, I felt more connected than I ever have. More myself. More alive. He reached out and touched the crystal, and both sisters placed their hands over his. I don't fully understand what this bond means. I don't know what challenges we'll face, or how we'll make this work. But I know I want to try. I know I want you both in my life, for however long that is. Tears, or something like them, slipped down Lunette's cheeks, glowing faintly as they fell. You are sure? You accept us, both of us, even though it's not human way. I accept you, Marcus said firmly. Both of you. However this works, we'll figure it out together. Seraphine's voice was thick with emotion. Then we must speak the words. Is how bond is sealed. We speak in Nesari, then in your language, so universe knows in both tongues. She began speaking in that musical language, the words rising and falling like song. Lunette joined her, harmonizing. Marcus didn't understand the words, but he felt their meaning resonating in his chest, in his soul. Then they switched to English, their voices blending together. I offer my heart, freely given. I offer my soul, freely shared. I offer my life, freely bound. From this moment until stars go dark, we are one. Marcus felt the words in his bones. He spoke them back, first stumbling, then with growing confidence. I offer my heart, freely given. I offer my soul, freely shared. I offer my life, freely bound. From this moment until stars go dark, we are one. The crystal exploded with light, so bright it filled the entire cabin. And Marcus felt something fundamental shift inside him. It was like doors opening in his mind, new rooms he never knew existed. He could feel Seraphine's steady presence, like bedrock, strong and eternal. He could feel Lunette's vibrant energy, like electricity, quick and bright. And they could feel him. He knew it without asking, saw it in their widening eyes as they experienced his emotions, his thoughts, the depth of feeling he'd been hiding even from himself. The light faded, and the three of them sat in stunned silence, staring at each other with new understanding. "It's done," Seraphine whispered. "The bond is complete. We are bonded. We are one." Lunette laughed through her tears and launched herself at Marcus, kissing him with a passion that took his breath away. When she pulled back, Seraphine was there, her kiss slower but no less intense. Marcus held them both, feeling complete in a way he never had before. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the snow in shades of gold and pink. Inside, three hearts beat as one, a bond formed across the stars, impossible and perfect and real. Whatever came next, they would face it together,